Hi friends! Today I think we're just going to do a little landscape. I want to use up this Bahang rough 100% cotton watercolor block that I have. I have a couple of these. I don't do too much with the rougher grain, but I thought I'd show you where it can really come through. So I'm just going to do a little landscape, taking some Payne's Gray on a very wet on wet surface here, just kind of building out some clouds, something a little kind of dark. We'll put some blue in there as well to have some of that peeking through. That'll give the appearance of some clouds and that type of a scenario there. So we'll pull in some cerulean blue, and you'll see how that actually ends up creating a nice cloud pattern. Once we get that cloud pattern in the way that we want it, we're going to do a little bit more of pulling in some more water, wetting, well actually let's do some mountains. Some faded in the distance mountains. I'm going to treat the middle as kind of where that light's coming. So on both sides of this, I'm going to shade the side of those mountains. That would be, oh, look how that Payne's Gray just blooms like that. I love it. Spreads. So I'm kind of going to keep that shadow side on either side of that center. I'm just pulling that down a little bit by adding some more water. Just kind of fades it out, gives a nice foundation for the rest. So kind of doing this as I go, thinking about the colors I want to use. I know I want to put some different greens in there, so I'm thinking, yep, a hooker's green, and probably we'll put in some maybe some pyrroline. There's some more hooker's green, and just trying to create some kind of an atmosphere of greenery, some kind of grass fields or something. Maybe we'll end up putting in some wildflowers or something. I know we'll put some trees, but this is one of those where I don't have anything planned. If I did, I would sketch it out first, make sure I have a nice composition and all that. But sometimes I think it's kind of a good practice to just build out something as you go and really kind of look at how it develops, and thinking, like now I'm putting in this darker green where I pulled in some pyrroline and I'm mixing it in with what was there, and just on the outside corners at the bottom I want it to be a little darker. So I'm going to be pulling some of that, and you can see how that rough surface of that paper really creates a lot of texture to the actual, to the ground cover. And while I'm looking at this, I'm thinking maybe, yep, there's some more green. Let's do that. And then once we get where we feel pretty comfortable with that foundation, then we can start looking at the other features that we want in this painting. And then of course, once it's dry to a certain extent, then I will add, my dog hair gets in there all the time. I'm constantly pulling little dog hairs. But then we'll get into creating some more detail on the mountains in the distance. So they look really fuzzy now, but don't worry, they will be coming back into focus a little bit, not too much. But there again, putting in that pyrroline to give that depth and character to the different landscape features. Some of it just looks like taller grasses, some different things. I think I'll put in maybe some fir trees. I really love, that's my favorite green, that pyrroline. It's by Daniel Smith. And I like mixing it with some other colors. My favorite one to mix it with is the Aussie Red Gold. I don't know why, but I just love that combination. But just drying now, so we've got all of this that I can go back in and start putting in some detail. So it just takes a little bit to get that dry. There we go. Now here again, I'm going to go back in with these shadows. Nothing real specific, but just enough to give you those shapes and that feeling of, one side's going to be darker than the other. Just like when you have a light source coming through, you want to make sure you honor those shadow patterns. So I'll probably go on the other side as well, mixing a little bit more of that Payne's Gray. And that's the Payne's Gray Blue. I love that color. Sometimes it's really cool to just use just that color in a painting, and you can do some really cool landscapes. But see, I'm just kind of putting in, for now, just some shading, some shadows to kind of give that feeling of dimension to the mountains in the distance. And it will lighten a bit when it dries, so if it looks like it's going out a little dark, I'm not concerned about it. This is going to be very loose and free. Yeah, now that I've got the shading kind of put in, I do need to put in something near the front just to make sure I maintain that it's a shape against that sky. So see, I'll just kind of put in some rough kind of detail there to just create that rocky landscape feel in the back. That all with this tiny little brush. I'm using my Princeton Snaps today. I really like those for working with small details or just some random things. The other one that's laying there is sharpened on the end because I was able to use that to pull some grasses and things. There's all kinds of things you can do with your tools. But now, taking this one, I'm going to be pulling in some of the green for these evergreens. And I'm just kind of winging it, but I think I want to make sure I stay balanced. So I'll do on the left, and then I'll have something over on the right. And I think I'm seeing a little water feature over here in the middle. So for now, I'm just going to be putting in some of these trees, and maybe some of them closer, some of them further away. This one will be a little bit closer. And some of this, if I'd planned it out more, I would have really got all of my background finished a little bit more. But I want you to see how you can create on the fly. And it's really rewarding to do that when you can come up with something that's really kind of unique and completely, it's not derived. It's just something that's organic and something that just comes from you. It becomes a part of you. So here's on the other side, let's put in a little tree here. It's very relaxing. This one's not very long, about 20 minutes to create something this is about a 5x7. I think that's the size on this one. I'll show you the paper when we're done. But it's the Bao, it's the 100% cotton, acid-free, rough. I like the distance on that one, but I need something closer. So let's do something here. Might need to go further up. Yeah, just a little bit. There we go. Try to keep it, a little difference between the different type of trees. Some narrower, some wider. But then I have to make sure and remember to add some shadows for those trees as well. Okay, let's see, it's coming along. I do think I want to put, some in the back, in the very, very back. This is what I mean. If I planned this out ahead of time, I might have put some of those in while the background was still a little damp to fade them out. But this is fine too, because you can still tell because the water itself is, the paint's already watered down a little. It kind of helps with that same type of feel. So this is just a very, like the paper, a very rough kind of, easygoing landscape. And I love these with the mountains in the back and some fir trees. I liked having a water feature. And I love this color green on the grass because, again, I said, I wanted it to look like that center had some light coming through. And so you can see, if I'd have planned, I'd have put that in first, but that's okay. Because the light in the background, the light on the paper the white on the paper is what creates your light. So, having those spaces in there, it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just creating sections of light, and, it's okay. So let's do, I'm thinking that a little bit blue. I want to kind of reflect the gray and the blue in the sky, so I add some cerulean blue in there with that Payne's gray, maybe a little bit more. And just put some where I've got that one area in the middle down here. Let's put some blue in for just a little pond or something in there, just to kind of bring that blue back down into the rest of the painting. It's a small thing, but it looks really good when you do these little ones, put them in a mat, in a little frame, and they just really can be a lot of fun to have, or to gift. Stick them in a card. I've done that. I do that a lot at Christmas. I'll do real quick little snow-capped mountains and fir trees and some snow. I hit my table. Probably because my dog was there throwing his toy at my feet. All right, I'm going to pull out, this is the Dr. Phil Martin's Bleed Proof White. And see, it will go on to that green. And like I said, I'm improvising, so I'm kind of creating as I go. So in this case, I want white because I want little wildflowers, and I want them to be light. So I'm putting in little white dots, specks with this bleed proof white, because it really kind of maintains that whiteness. It doesn't necessarily fade. It's real hard to take white watercolor and put it on top of a darker color watercolor. It just doesn't work. It's very hard. You can get Chinese white, and in the Kuritakis, for example, I think that's how it's pronounced. The I'm not even going to do it. But anyway, in their paints, they have a Chinese white, and you can actually kind of layer with that one with white. But most white paints do not do that well over a color. Just trying to put in some darker greenery, that kind of thing up in here as well. And then I'll probably go back into these little white flowers, maybe add some yellow or something just to brighten it up a little bit more. We'll see. Add some kind of a grass. And then I'm probably going to darken the edge of the little pond on the other side because of the shadows. I do still need to add some stems on our trees as well, the actual trunks, and then some shading underneath them. But for now, just trying to create some foreground. It just really kind of gives you that sense of far away in the distance, and then, being up close here. It's just a really good thing to do. Let's just try to pull some of this brown into these trees. It doesn't have to be brown, really. It's just dark. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and fill them in a little bit more with a little bit of a darker, maybe the pyrroline, just to kind of create, again, some shadows and a little bit more contrast. Let's do that. I'll get the pyrroline green, pull it back in here. It's going to be pretty thick this time. And I'm just kind of putting in at first just underneath these boughs of the tree to just kind of, indicate those shades, that shading, and give it that sense of depth and character. And then on the one side, of course, it's going to be a little darker than the other, again, because of the way that the light source would be coming from the middle. This one as well definitely needed some filling in. I don't mind having sparse trees, but I like everything to look a little bit balanced, and that one just was kind of getting on my OCD a little bit. Okay, that one's all right. I'm going to add some, particularly on these, because when you've got things that are closer, you want them to have more detail. Oh, it's been a relaxing evening. Thankfully, it was only 7:30 and I was thinking it was late. So that gave me plenty of time to just kind of, go. I actually cleaned my palette, the one over there with the green and the Payne's gray in it. I had struggled with it. I did not want to clean it because there was enough paint on there, and I hate to not use it when I have it. This is looking better with the darker, and you see just how the contrast really helps. And I apologize, I tend to move my paper around if it's not taped down. Boy, I'm moving it. And I had done a couple videos here recently to upload for you, and something went wrong with I was using my phone to record just like I am now, and something happened. I have no idea what it was, and I think it was just saying, nope, it's full. Because I have a tendency to do a bunch of them and then just see what I like and work with those. So I had quite a bit on there, and this was an older phone. I have like 3. Don't ever get rid of your iPhones if you use iPhones. Because I have one in my studio all set up for when I want to do my pastel recordings. I have one in my kitchen, which is this one, all set up so when I want to do my watercolor recordings. And then I have my regular phone. So the one that I'm using here is much, much older. I think it's might even be a 6S or something like that. But anyway, so it was full. So I got rid of a lot of stuff and just had to start over. And that's okay. I'm getting more practice. I had been doing pastels for so long. See, adding that yellow, how it just kind of creates that little bit of interest there and just kind of gives it all a cohesiveness. But now that I've cleaned my palette, I thought, why not just sit down and do something fresh. So, all right, we have almost finished this one. I've got to do shadows. I need to put some shadows. So let's get some of those down at the bottom of these trees. And I think, let's see here, don't want to go too heavy. So let's put in some green first, just to kind of get a feel for, different layering of, undulations in the ground. And there you go with the shadows. That really does make a difference to have that. You can see how it does. And then the ones that are closer, they're already in a darker area, so that's fine, but still adding a little bit to just kind of help keep it all balanced and nice. And that's what I was talking here about also, because this edge of the pond where I'm working is really going to be more shaded, simply because of the fact that it's higher than the water. So just kind of make sure we get that edge there for the water. It has a little reflection. And I think we are done. I hope you enjoyed this. I thoroughly enjoyed painting it with you. This is my block leaf, and just so you remember how to remove your paper from the block once it's dry, of course, which I have dried this. And this was, for some reason, these little blocks are so much harder. I have to be so careful. So the leaf really does help. You definitely don't want to use anything too sharp because you will disturb the paper underneath, and you don't want to do that either. So I could tell right there it was just, and sometimes what I'll do too is I'll take a fine razor before I start a painting and get that glue off the top edge. And then I'll just throw the painting around like that. See, there was a lot of glue. That's what was making it harder to get it off of that block. So I can just pull it off now, but a lot of times with the larger blocks, that's what I'll do is I will take my little pocket knife and go all around the edge. So this is the rough grain bao hong. It's 100% cotton, and you see how much texture it has. And this is what I was saying, is that it's just a really nice paper to use for something like this. So and I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come back again. Take care.